Today we're comparing fractions. So in this problem, Danny ate 1/2 of a large sub sandwich. Sam ate 3/4 of a large sub sandwich. Who ate more of their sub sandwich? So you can see here that Danny has eaten half of the sub sandwich. I've left the picture of how much of it he ate, not what's left over. So this is the picture of half of a sub sandwich. And then to the right of it, you have the model. You have a rectangle divided in 2 equal parts. One part is shaded to show the part that he ate. Then you have Sam down here with the glasses, and he ate 3/4 of a large sub sandwich. So they both had the same size sandwich, but Sam ate this much of it. The part that's pictured is the part he ate. And then here's the model for it. Notice that the rectangles are exactly the same size, but the pieces are different sizes because of how much they ate. But you'll see that Sam's blue part is bigger than Danny's blue part. So the amount that Sam ate is greater than the amount that Danny ate. So I can write that like this. So I can put Danny's first, 1/2, and Sam's second. Now, I know that you've been taught that the crocodile eats the biggest food. You've been taught that the arrow points to the smallest thing. Those are hard to remember, and I would always get confused. So I figured out a way that works really well for me, and it might work really well for you. I've found most students really like this method better, so they tend to use this one. So the bigger fraction is 3/4. So I'm going to put 2 dots by 3/4 because it's bigger. I'm going to put 1 dot by 1/2 because it's smaller. And then I'm going to connect the dots. I don't want to close the triangle. I just want to connect the dots to make my symbol. This is the less than symbol. So I read it as 1/2 is less than 3/4. Now, if 3/4 is first, then I'm still going to put 2 dots by 3/4 and 1 dot by 1/2, connect the dots, and now I read it as 3/4 is greater than 1/2. Either way that you read it, it is still true. 3/4 is greater than 1/2, 1/2 is less than 3/4. Okay, let's go to the next page. Oops, I didn't mean to add a page. Here we go. Okay. I'm trying to scroll and it won't let me. Stop it. Okay, I think my thing froze. Here we go. Okay, so now we're comparing fractions with like numerators. Now, in this case, like means the same. So when you have 2 fractions with the same numerator, how do you compare those? So when fractions have the same numerator, the bigger denominator is the smaller fraction. So the bigger denominator is the smallest fraction. And the reason is because the pieces are smaller. So denominators do not function like whole numbers, okay? If I have 4 donuts and Susie has 2 donuts, I obviously have more donuts. Those are whole numbers. But when that number is a denominator, the larger denominator, the bigger denominator is the smaller fraction, okay? So let's take a look at that. If this thing, oh good, it let me scroll. So you can see 1/2 is greater than 1/4. If I highlight this, this is 1/2 of a pizza. This is 1/4 of a pizza. 1/2 is bigger, even though the denominator, the actual number, is smaller because of the size of the pieces. Okay, the pieces on the pizza on the right, the 1/4 pizza, the pieces are smaller. That's why. So let's look at it with, with a model. Okay, so here are two rectangles that represent the two pizzas. So the 1/2 pizza is the top rectangle. You see that 1 out of 2 equal parts is shaded. And then you have 1 out of 4 equal parts on the bottom rectangle that is shaded. And obviously, 1/4 is smaller than 1/2. 1/2 is greater than 1/4. Just, you can see it very clearly with that model. Okay, so let's scroll down and look at it on a number line. Now, number lines can be a little trickier when you have different denominators because you really have to be good at number lines in order to do this. So I'm going to show you what I did, and hopefully it will make sense to you. So first I did my point of origin. I did 0, and then I did my whole number 1. I divided my number line into 4 equal parts, and I put the tick marks at the places where the 4 equal spaces ends. And then what I did was I just put my fractions underneath. So at the first tick mark, I have 0/4. Now notice they're all 4s because it's 4 equal parts. So this is 0/4. The next tick mark is 1/4. The next tick mark is 2/4. The next tick mark is 3/4. And the last tick mark is 4/4. Okay, and then I did halves on the same number line because it's easier than trying to draw 2 number lines and make sure everything's exact. So what I did was I counted off 1 equal part and 2 equal parts. So I know that the tick mark where I need to have my fraction is this middle one right here. Let me do it in the same color that the halves are. So this is my 1/2 point. So down here at the bottom, I put my fractions for 2 equal parts. I'm ignoring the 1/4 and the 3/4 tick marks because those don't apply to halves. So at the first tick mark, I have 0 halves, skip a tick mark. Then I have 1/2 in the middle, skip a tick mark. And then at the end, I have 2 halves, which is equal to 1 whole. Okay, so then I just need to look at my fractions again. I had 1/2 and 1/4. So I'm going to circle 1/2 and I'm going to circle 1/4. So the fraction that is closer to 1 is the bigger fraction. So you can see that 1/2 is bigger than 1/4. So when I write these, 1/4 and 1/2, again, my rule, the bigger denominator is the smaller fraction. So I'm going to put 1 dot there. I'm going to put 2 dots near the smaller denominator because the pieces are bigger. And so it's going to be 1/4 is less than 1/2. Or if I write it the other way, 1/2 and 1/4. That's a 1, not a 7. My finger dragged. So again, I can see that 1/2 is closer to 1, so it's bigger, and 1/4 is closer to 0, so it's smaller. So 1/2 is greater than 1/4. Okay, we have one more page. Okay, comparing fractions with like denominators. Again, like means the same. So fractions with the same denominators are easy because, or let's see. Yes, because the numerators behave like whole numbers. Bigger numerator, bigger fraction. So when fractions have like denominators, the larger numerator is the larger fraction because the pieces are all the same size. You just have more pieces for the bigger one. Okay, so this one's easier. It's that like numerators that you really have to think about it. It's a little harder. Okay, so 2/3 is greater than 1/3. So if I eat this piece, and someone else eats this piece, I ate more of the candy bar than they did because I ate 2 of the 3 pieces. You can see here on the model below it, 2/3 and 1/3. More of 2/3 is shaded in than 1/3. And again, on the number line, these are much easier to do on the number line as well because you only need to do the thirds. So I divided this number line into 3 equal parts. I put my denominator 3 on underneath every tick mark. And then I just counted it off with the numerators: 0/3, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So now I'm going to compare my fractions. So I have 2/3 and I have 1/3. 2/3 is closer to 1, so I know that 2/3 is bigger, 2/3 is greater. So if I write it down, 1/3 and 2/3, I look at those numerators because the denominators are the same. I know that 2 is bigger than 1, so I just put my dots and connect. 1/3 is less than 2/3. If I write it the other way, I know that 2/3 is closer to 1, so it is bigger than 1/3, so I do that. 2/3 is greater than 1/3.